Everybody say it mean.
Who's that out there living the dream? Let's blow in the bean. Who's that still smoking all that green? Let's blow in the bean. Come on, y'all, let me hear you scream. Let's blow in the bean. Let's blow in the bean. Let's blow in the bean. Go.
Let's blow the bean. Post 210 show, guys, coming at you here. More than likely on a Monday. Most people are going to be getting this. And it was, I thought, a fun one. I've been hearing people were disappointed because the last two fights kind of fell apart, but we will get there. But there was, I feel like a lot went on. I was pleasantly surprised in the fights. It's been 3 weeks since we've had some fights, so I was needed. I needed my fix, and I feel like I got my fix. There was finishes, there was controversy, there was breast implant augmentation rules being implemented. What else could you ask for? There's Towelgate, there's retirements. I mean, people need to shut the hell. What else do you want? What else could you bring to a card if you think about it?
No problem with. What I realized last night was it's Joe Rogan's tantrum, and everyone says it all the time. Yes, it is one of the hardest sports on the planet, but it's also entertainment. And the whole thing building up, the Towelgate, all the controversy, it's all a show. And so for the show from, let's say it starts on Friday, Thursday, and then it ends on that late Sunday post-night press conference. Or early morning post-fight press conference. So I feel like that whole drama that built around it, the Twitterverse, all the talk shows, boom, boom, boom. Overall, what would you say it's the fight card of the year so far? It's been a pretty lackluster year, so it's not saying a bunch, but...
No, I would say that it was definitely... I felt like it delivered. I felt like... Really, what else could you ask for other than a draw? The only thing we didn't have last night was a draw. We would have covered all the
I didn't get to see enough of it. I got to see the fight, past fights, because I was at a wedding.
Right.
And so I got to see all the fight, well, not all of them, but I had the fight pass on my phone.
Nice.
And it was after the ceremony. I wasn't a douchebag. It was during parts that weren't important. When other people were, stepping aside to smoke cigarettes, I just stepped aside with my, gonna make a phone call, but really, I'm gonna, catch a little fight. Few rounds here and there. So I watched a lot of the fight pass ones, but then I missed some in between and made it back right at the beginning of A Little House of Pain. A Little House of Pain. A Little House of Pain. So Cavillo, I think that's who it was that was walking in. Was that... Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see Aldana come in earlier at night? She came in.
Those are the times I try to pay attention to everything going on. I'm like, okay, when it walk-ins, yeah.
Yeah, true. I just really liked Aldana's because she brought in the Tres Delincuentes song, which is a really old school 90s, straight out of California rap group that had a mariachi band involved. I grew up idolizing that song, and then the fact that she came out to it was gangster.
It was one of my worst pick nights.
It was a hard night to pick. I also had a tough time. I don't think that all of the people that I follow on Tapology, the highest person I got, and I follow also high-ranking people, was only 78th place. To get 13 out of 13 right last night was not happening. The Oliveira Wilson... or Will Brooks.
That actually, I had some okay cards on DraftKings, but I would say if any fight if any totally screwed me over, it was that fight. I put Will Brooks on I think all my cards, and I never do that. But I just felt so confident. I just felt like Oliveira shit the bed so many times. But this is what else I realized, and I could be totally talking out of turn. Are the Bellator fighters just kind of, when they come over, are they not?
Eddie Alvarez was a champ.
Yep.
And so, there is some elite guys, but some guys haven't made it. Some guys haven't, but there was Bellator has sent a couple people over and is looking at the Bellator roster. UFC does look at the Bellator roster to bring people on. They don't like to acknowledge that kind of stuff, but it does happen. And there's been some... Michael Chandler's the next person that everybody talks about that he's got to come to the UFC. It was Will Brooks in the fight looked like he was stunned that Oliveira all of a sudden wanted to wrestle him. And Oliveira started out wrestling him. Oliveira was also supposedly saying that he wanted to make the weight back down to 145 after this fight, where he just beat Will Brooks, a guy way stronger than him, at 155. Will Brooks looked like a monster, but Oliveira actually shot in with like a trip knee tap and then got to his back and then picked him up and scooted his hips out, and Will Brooks looked like he got taken for a ride. Immediately went in for the back and locked in a submission, and it was over. Oliveira's submission game is on point. Hopefully he doesn't move down to 145, but if he does, I think it's just bad for his career because he's been too drained and he's missed weight, and that's where he quit the most, was at 145.
He looked like, oh, this is the guy that I used to really love.
Yeah.
Like, I used to really
He
have
looked
think that he was
hungry.
full of promise.
Yep.
So I definitely think
That was one of the bigger upsets of the night that really put a lot of cards in bad standings. But the first fight of the night, which this Biblatov versus Lauza, I feel like the decision, all credit goes to Lauza. Lauza was tough as nails. There's many other fighters that could have been finished in that fight that would have given up, and he didn't. And he's going to have a good fight coming up for him next, I feel like. He's going to have a really winnable fight. Bib looks like he's a contender. If you got to watch any of this one, you saw some of that DJ-ness where you're like, whoa. But he did get a point deducted. This was a really interesting fight. This kicked off the night on Fight Pass, and Bib had, I believe, 3 groin shots. 3 separate groin shots. By the third one, he had to take a point. Had to. It was Big John McCarthy. Maybe it was only 2.
You know, Big John McCarthy did a couple of things that I really liked. Mm-hmm. Like, later on, we can talk about it.
Right, we'll get there.
It was good. It was good. We had some competency there.
But, I mean, there is something to be said, which we will get there with the commission and everything, that Big John has since talked about it. So did Dana. It's like, hey, we haven't been in New York, and this is what happens when you're out of here for 17 years. You guys don't know how to run a show that knows how to run itself, and you're stepping in when you don't need to.
Oh,
and it was
they just
so
ruined
bad.
Fight after fight after fight. I almost
weird.
would never be a fighter that fights in a New York card. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, for
unless
New
you're
York,
fighting for a strap and get part of the gate.
They broke, supposedly, the attendance record there, the gate record, and all this. So all of a sudden, New York's like, hey, guess what? We want to have more fights. And UFC now gets to say, hey, you guys are amateurs in a professional league. Maybe we don't want it. Now, all of a sudden, they're going to become a commodity for them. Because they're... And money talks.
So
they just saw where the money's coming. That place was sold out. Loved the crowd.
Yeah, Dana just said attendance records and everything, and they keep doing it in every single one of
arena they go to.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the crowd I loved from the beginning of the night because it was packed from this first fight, Lauza versus Bib. It ended up being a really fun fight. This is a contender. Hopefully they don't shoot him up too fast to DJ. GJ's coming up next week on Fox for free.
I had Lauza, but I not only tough, but I just he looked okay to me. He looked good at first, and he was playing so smart.
10th Planet disciple, Lauza.
Yeah, I mean, and then how much would you say that 3 kicks to the D?
Will affect you in a fight. Hey,
more than a point, less than a point. Is it worth it? It becomes a chess game to see whether or not you're gonna
If it drains you, does it take the life out of you? I totally...
Big John should be training all these refs, though. Why isn't there, there should be one school of thought for it, and that's what everyone should be going through.
There's stuff that's starting to... It's the competition. It's the competition of the free market. They don't want it to monopolize, but there needs to be a set standard, and Big John actually have a lot of schools, and so does Herb Dean, and they're some of the most accredited, and they come through a certain organization. I don't know the entire background. I have looked into reffing, information for my states and stuff, and there is a whole background. You do have to go through checks and balances. You do have to have credentials and have time in service where you're getting paid nothing. If they send you to assignment across Florida and you have to drive 4 hours, they might reimburse you for the gas, but the room you might have to pay for, your food you might have to pay for. You have to be
in love with the sport.
Exactly. And you have to be able to support yourself doing it until you can get to the UFC level where eventually people start bidding for you to go work for them and you can get paid a little bit more. But a lot of conflicts of interests can come into play, so you have to be really careful as far as what you do as a ref. It's really, really interesting, but we need better refs in the UFC, and you people like you, guys that are listening, guys and girls that are listening to this podcast, need to be looking at this information as well, because you're the best refs out there. People that are studying the sport like us and wanting to find this type of information, you know as much as some of these refs, and only because they have 5 years of boxing at pro experience, they come into MMA because it's a combat sport, and that doesn't make any sense. You should have MMA's refs only work on MMA.
I agree.
And that's where we've seen hiccups before. And it doesn't happen as much as it used to, but
in New York, we see this again.
Because they were amateurs working with pros all of a sudden. And we have Chookagian winning a decision over Irene Aldana, and that was a split decision. I could have seen that go either way. It was a really fun fight. I really liked the movement of Aldana. Her movement looked really good. She looked in shape. Chookagian had a much more kicking heavy offense and was picking her shots a bit more.
This is a piss poor division, man.
That's
so horrible for me to say about everyone. It's just such a weak division.
People like to see knockouts, and it's hard. It's hard for them. And with two strikers going at it, the ground game wasn't there at all. They just kind of kickboxed the entire time. And this is what can happen when two strikers get in each other. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a stalemate.
Moving on to the next fight, we go into another split decision for Desmond Green versus Josh Emmett. This beats Josh Emmett's 11-0 record, so now he has 11-1 record to Desmond Green. Desmond Green looked great. The head movement that I said he didn't have, he had. He was crisp striking. He looked like Michael Johnson, and then they said, oh yeah, he's been working with Michael Johnson for the last year. Oh, okay. And I was like, oh, he looks like Michael Johnson, and he's totally long and tall.
In them?
I believe they're all at the same camp, but I can't be 100%. Usman looked like that. His boxing looked that crisp as well. Usman looked, hands were on fire. But Emmett put in a good fight. It was a team alpha male centric style of fighting. A lot of overhand rights. Not that many takedowns, and fun to see both of these guys. I'm excited for both of them to move on to the next one. So we have Gillespie versus Holbrook. I had Holbrook in this decision. That didn't happen at all. This was a TKO in the first 35 seconds, 40 seconds of the fight. 21 seconds for Gillespie.
Yeah,
this was a left. It was just a left hook. It was a left hook. Knocked him on his ass, and then knocked Holbrook on his ass, and then Gillespie threw the legs by incredibly well and started landing hammer fists, and Holbrook's contested it and got up saying he was fine. They showed the replay. He went limp, baby. He was done. He was hands down just eating hammer fists. Gillespie is somebody to look out for. I really didn't do my tape study on him, and I remembered when he won in Brazil beforehand, he did look really good coming in on 10 days notice. The 10 days notice really made his a lackluster performance where he had a full training camp for Holbrook and he didn't really get to show it, but Gillespie I think is somebody to definitely look out for. He's hungry. He looks like he's ready to come back at it. Next fight, we have Pat Cummings versus Blachowicz. This was a decision, and this was a comeback.
And you know what? I have to say this too. Immediately, I just knew it, and I just should have listened to my gut. I sure did like the look of the mustache on Patrick Cummings.
He did look good.
I felt it. I felt the energy was different. I felt like, ooh, should I change this right now? Everything in me said, you should change this right now.
Oh, you should.
And he looked a lot better. And the fact that he was taking those hits from...
the first round looked like it was over. Looked like it was over the first couple uppercuts.
Yeah.
Cummings' chin did hold up. He was hurt, but he did hold up. Where that's what I was mainly saying is that his chin's done. Where he showed me, maybe it's not that done.
That
maybe.
mustache. He found his inner pirate or something.
Hey, whatever works for you. If it's all mental or not. It definitely was something that it was amazing that he put it back together, and Blachowicz gassed completely. Is Blachowicz out of the UFC? Probably out of the UFC after
who
this.
Who cares?
I
mean that's but it's not gonna hurt. I think the division. Well, it's a division that could still use a couple of people. Maybe not. I bet he has another fight still.
I could see him being let out. I feel like that was almost a loser leaves town kind of a bout, and I feel like he might be taking a step out, but I feel like he could be retiring soon as well. I feel like Blachowicz was like 38.
Yeah, he's an older dude.
Yeah, exactly. Like had a long career, and with this setback, his championship, it doesn't look too well in the light division for him to get there. So it's like, ooh. All right, so moving on to the next fight, we have Burgos versus Rosas, and this was our underdog Leslie Smith pick of the week. This didn't come through. I feel like this was an early TKO, but Rosas was getting beat down.
It was a horrible pick.
Beat down. I mean, Burgos was just doing whatever he wanted with Rosas, striking him apart. To Rosas' toughness, it was a standing TKO. It was a standing. He wasn't out. He wasn't knocked out, but oh man, he needs to take a rest. Burgos is a guy who's coming right for he's in title contention looking like that against a fighter like Rosas. I feel like he's someone I'm really, really going to keep an eye on because I feel like Rosas should have been able to do much more, and it didn't happen at all.
You shut him down.
Yeah, completely. I mean, it was complete domination, and Burgos is somebody to definitely keep an eye out for. I feel like Rosas will beat a lot of still guys underneath him. There's still guys underneath him.
Sleeper.
Yeah, he's still not a bad pick. He just is coming up with a great up-and-comer. Next fight, we have a decision between...
Do you think Burgos fights like Yair?
No, Yair's is too far ahead of him already. I think Yair's almost in that top 5. Yeah, exactly. Where Burgos is going to have probably like... He's going to take a big step up from this Rosas. Like, his next fight is going to be... He's going to be looking at top 15 contention after his next fight. And Usman versus Strickland was a decision when it could have been a TKO at times. Usman looked amazing.
He is an awesome friggin'
great
fighter.
His striking.
I've only seen highlights from this. I will go back and watch both these last two all the way.
Oh man, Usman used his wrestling in reverse in order to keep the fight standing, and he had the striking advantage where I felt like Strickland was gonna have the striking advantage, but in the first round, Usman landed a couple jabs and rights that immediately made Strickland start to backpedal and not throw punches. Strickland threw so many less punches than he ever usually does, but usually he's winning the striking exchanges, so that tends to benefit his output. Not in this fight. He was backing up the whole time because Usman was hurting him.
I think people are going to be scared to take a fight with Usman. That's the hard thing when you get to this number ranking,
right?
Where you start wanting the guys that are ahead of you, but they're like,
nobody
behind
I don't want
that fight.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want that fight. I think he is a monster.
I agree. It's going to be fun to see where Usman goes. I still like Strickland, and I think that he still can get his stuff together. Usman, I feel like Strickland needs to start doing the traveling samurai type of thing and he's been out of Team Quest Temecula for a while now. He needs to go back on the road and start traveling a bit.
That most of the great guys that are wearing straps now in the UFC and years of USADA are guys that do exactly what you just said, that they're traveling more to different camps and taking things, women and men, not just guys, and taking things from each camp until they feel like they're...
Or you go to Mecca. And right now, for me, the Mecca is American Top Team, Florida. I feel like that is right now.
It depends on your fighting style. There's two kinds of styles. I think you either go to the American Top Team, Florida. For me, the two, if you're either one of two fighters. You're either somebody that really needs a whole huge team around you, and you go to a place like American Top Team, or is it Elevation with TJ Dillashaw and if you have the fighting style that you just want to pick, like, I'm going to have my head coach and we're going to do this kind of thing. And
what would you say is the number 2? Elevation?
I think right now, that style of Dwayne Ludwig's style, standing. I think that is the exact opposition of the American Top Team style as far as UFC training in the UFC. It's not that it's like a bigger camp or the next biggest camp. I just think his style of how he's doing it now, and him and TJ, I just think that is the polar opposite to the American Top Team. Not hard work or anything, just this smaller team to bigger team aspect. And so they're like oppositions. I think Ludwig seems like a different monster. And there's other guys that do it. I think the Conor McGregor and John Kavanaugh, I think they kind of have a similar relationship as that. And I think that is a style.
Faraza Hobby, TriStar.
Yeah.
Like, there is others, Black House. There's definitely, and styles come out of places and or gyms as well. Like, we can see that Josh Emmett, you could pick him out of 100 fighters and be like, he fights for Alpha Male. You could see that in Josh Emmett if you saw his fight. He looked like
Who's our American top team? JJ?
Yep. Well, what I'm saying is
Nunes.
the greats are coming from, when they're getting belts or about to get belts or whatever, then they come to American Top Team with belts or they get belts once they're there. That just keeps proving that on the underground, the fighters underground, people are like, if you really want to get it together, you need to go over here. But there's a couple places in the country, I feel like, again, the Alpha Male used to be much better than it was. In Brazil, it used to be Novo União. Now there's, again, the TriStar. Team Quest U has fallen off so far. The Linlin program / Hendo. And the Duke
What about the
Rufus.
BMF branch?
I guess they haven't, but they didn't.
They haven't thrown out anybody yet.
Other than Cerrone.
Yeah.
And does the traveling. Because, there's the New York, or the Winklejohn.
Yeah.
Over in New Mexico. But
And then there's Philly, out of Philly.
But there is fighters every once in a while that are coming out of backyards. In this sport, there is still, there is people in little towns like ours that are getting some martial arts other than just karate, that are just people in a garage with wrestling mats, or people that rent out a wrestling room. And I've went to wrestling clubs and been like, oh, cool, we can use the mats. Let's roll. Open hand strikes or just work on whatever. You're not beating each other up. You're not fighting, but it's how you get better. You just do it.
What's that movie from maybe it was early 80s. It could have even been late 70s. And it was like, I want to say Best Around, but I know that's not the name of it. Best of the Best?
The Capoeira movie?
What one?
The best of... No, there can only be one is, I think, the one I'm
it's
talking
like, okay, there's like this white kid and he moves to a new neighborhood. It's not the fucking Karate Kid.
Uh-huh.
He moves to a new neighborhood and there's a fat guy that lives across the street, and then he makes friends with like a break dancer, and he loves Bruce Lee and sets up his garage in the woods.
Yeah, Van Damme's in it. It's one of the best movies. It's Only the Strong?
Maybe.
No. It's, no whatever, no fear. No strengthness, no fear. What the fuck
and
is
he's
the
like
name?
hitting the wood arms, hitting the wood arms.
And Van Damme's in it. It's one of Van Damme's first roles ever. I know it. Well, I had it on VHS. I had that, and we would run next to the bike.
I know we can Google it right now, but
I don't want to.
I'm sure we have people listening right now that they're like, it's blank, motherfuckers.
Uh-huh.
It's something of the...
No surrender, no fear. No surrender, no weak.
You're close. Something with no surrender.
No surrender?
No something, no surrender, or no surrender, no something. Never give up, never surrender.
There it is.
Is that it?
I think so. I think that's what it is. Yeah, it's a great movie.
I don't know what made me think of
Upside Down, doing, I learned how to do crazy stuff.
It was in one of my
because
favorite when I would watch
movies.
fighting movies, but that one, and then do you remember... I don't even know what year this could have come out 10 years after it, and I feel like El DeBarge was in it, the guy that sang to the beat of the rhythm of the night, dancing to the morning light.
I don't know.
But there was and they had the glow.
Oh, Leroy?
Yeah.
Yeah, The Last Dragon?
Oh, The Last Dragon.
The Last Dragon?
Those
yes.
two, they were right up there with each other.
Yeah. I have been kicked in the balls many times after watching those movies, because you start fucking karateing in the house with your twin brother, and all of a sudden the legs a shoe comes off. Somehow it happens every time where someone gets a dick kick, and all of a sudden someone's crying, puking in the corner.
And they're like, I knew we should have just played lava and jumped around on pillows and not gotten a fight. Me and my brother would always play lava.
Yeah, that was always a classic.
Because sometimes we were in a good mood with each other.
Uh-huh.
Usually it started when we were like picking, and we were like, we should play something that requires violence to one another.
Oh, that's what we usually... But I had 5 boys.
All
brothers. Like, we could watch a movie, but if it got boring... We got in a fight. If something didn't gather our and when we would all go out in a group and go outside, we just go get in a fight outside until finally break up.
Go outside and play.
Okay.
Stop it.
Okay.
Stop fighting with each other. Go outside and play.
Yes.
Go outside and fight.
Fight, exactly.
Go outside and find a weapon.
That's essentially what it turns into. Oh, and we would live near a pear orchard, and we'd sharpen the spikes and throw them at each other.
Me and my brother were always making deadly weapons.
Hell yeah!
I'm so lucky
Hell yeah!
that I have both, knock on wood, I have both my eyeballs.
You know why your parents tell you don't throw rocks? Because you could hit somebody in the head with a rock.
I painted one of those rocks today. You know that everyone's...
And they're dropping it around town? Oh.
Yeah. I'm sure every town's doing it across the USA. But people are painting river rocks and then stealing them, and then kids find them and take pictures of them and put them on Facebook or something.
Could they do desert rocks and put them in the desert?
Probably. You can put them anywhere.
Oh. How big are rocks?
Just river rocks, any size you want.
Okay.
Barb did a little tiny one
Oh,
today,
nice.
a little one, and she put chill on it.
Nice.
Like a little chill pill.
Nice. I'm going to put one that says 420 on it.
She also did another one that said, this is so stupid, Yo Adrian, because that's a Rocky.
Yeah, I like that one. I like that one. That one's a good one.
Yeah, so we were just trying to think of silly ones. She said if she was a better artist, she was going to do Dwayne Johnson.
That would be super cool.
That'd be good.
If you do one of those. I could see it be fun. That's not a bad idea.
I did a sugar skull and put hola.
Nice. Nice.
Mine turned out good. They did like 5 in the time it took me to do my one.
Quality over quantity. All the time
I
for
was
me
just
as
like, I
well.
want mine to be nice.
Yeah,
like, I want mine to
exactly.
be exciting to find.
I don't
Not
want it
that
to
theirs
look like
weren't
a-
nice, but, you know, I just...
They were shit flowers. You can say it. They were shit flowers. You know what it was. They're like, this one's a dream catcher. No, that's a shit
Dip.
flower. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Oh, look at this. And you're like, why are you grabbing the marker?
It was
like
all for
this?
children, and the child sat behind me, and I was just like, motherfucker, touch my chair again. I am concentrating.
You're all
over
covering
here.
your rock. Don't copy me.
I know, little kid. Everyone's gonna.
Everyone's gonna know you copied my sugar skull, you little bastard.
Oh,
Oh, and
it started
moving
as
back
a
to
good
the
thing.
fights.
No. Anyways,
So, Usman looked great against Strickland.
he was
Definitely
my
someone to
favorite
watch out for.
out of the whole night. Like the guys, everybody pretty much. I would have had a really good night on DraftKings overall, even with all my shitty picks, because I really stay away from fights now that I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
And
good
I don't
call.
like make it hard. I don't even overhype them when I'm talking to everybody out there. But and so usually it falls toward the latter cards because I know a little more about the fighters that are earning those spots later in the round. But damn, I did not see Will Brooks. That's the one that.
So,
Yeah, moving on.
moving on, we have Miles Jury winning via TKO over Mike Delatorre. Delatorre did not contest that. He was
Delabori.
he was eating elbows. Oh, It was brutal. He's probably out of the UFC. I think this is his 3rd loss in a row. Miles Jury looks like he's definitely
Let's
back.
make room.
Yeah,
Let's make room.
there's definitely prospects coming up, and Delatorre, if he can't beat Miles Jury, not that he doesn't have a place in the UFC because not many people can beat him, but he really was just taken apart. I mean, Jury didn't come out with any type of damage at all. He took him right down and finished the fight. Moving on, Thiago Alves versus Patrick the Predator Cote with a retirement fight in slew of Alves looking like vintage Alves. I know that's a straight direct quote from Joe Rogan. You're welcome, America.
You want to know the new Joe Rogan quote that I've just heard from a couple of the brohams going on that everywhere? That guy's game. They're just very game.
Yeah.
It's the new game.
Yeah.
But he's just saying it a lot.
Ooh.
Like it's becoming the tag, the Joe Rogan tag. I like them because, they go in there, they're just game. It's the new they got heart.
Yeah. There's many ways to say it. Maybe we'll try to innovate some of these terms and explain them as we try to.
You got game. He's game. It's different than you got game.
And it's not in reference to the game, who's got a mini game hanging off of him.
I heard that guy.
I seen the Instagram randomly and was like, Jesus, that's fake.
He
Nope.
is a goddamn hog.
Jesus, he's got a goddamn
Harley fat boy.
unbelievable.
He can take the wife riding on that, and she needs her own helmet. If she falls asleep without hugging him around the waist she'll still hang on. It's that big of a bike.
I feel like you'd goddamn be Vlad the Impaler with that thing. You'd goddamn get 6 kebabbed. You get kit. I don't know. So, moving on to Alves looking like vintage Alves. Cote left his gloves in the ring.
Done.
He
I
said
feel like
either
if they
way.
leave their shit in the ring, they don't get them back anymore.
He said somebody takes it, somebody comes up and grabs them, and they turn into some sort of.
But they
I
can't
feel
be
like
like,
they offer
can
them
I
to
have my
them.
gloves back? I
Well,
want to fight again.
I feel like I've heard before that sometimes UFC staff will grab those kind of things, and then what they'll do is they'll make like a picture box or something like that. With
No,
the
I just mean
gloves.
I don't want to see them back. Once they have
Oh,
the
yeah.
retirement heart,
Yeah,
when I
yeah,
see
yeah.
these guys like a few months later, like I know how everyone feels, but I don't want to see Carlos Condit fight again. When
Yeah,
a guy
when he
says
said,
they're
I
done,
agree.
I don't want to see them fight again. I feel like they're just putting themselves in danger in there.
Agreed.
You need your heart involved, and it's not that they don't have it. I just think they're like, okay, I need a paycheck, and then I'll go to the real world. Like, homie, if your heart's not into it, you're gonna get your head damaged.
Yep, I totally agree 100% with that. And what else does somebody need to tell you? Listen, America. If somebody says I'm done, let them be done.
Let them be done. Stop
Let
calling
the-
them out. Stop.
Yep.
They're putting themselves in harm's
I know.
way.
Thank them for all of the work that they did because they were willing to sacrifice their livelihood, their body for our entertainment, and that should be good enough. If they have one fight, that should be good enough. That they did their job and they don't owe you anything.
Well, you don't get Betty White out there and you're like, Betty, I heard you really could cut a rug in your younger day. Get to dancing.
Yeah, right.
No, you're like, I don't want Betty to hurt herself.
Right.
You know what I mean?
A totally great
I just
point.
think at some point, let the entertainer just chillax, and they might find other aspects, a la the Brennan Schaubs, the Chael Sonnens. There might be life outside the ring. Let them move on with their brain.
Yeah. So, moving
Bye-bye,
on to the next fight, Alves, I feel like, is going to look good against not too many other guys, actually. I feel like Alves looked not better than he is because he's really still an elite fighter, but if he gets put up against somebody of caliber, I don't think Alves is going to fare well. So I feel like that's just something to look out for his later fights. He's going to do well, but Cote was not at the peak of his game. He didn't retire because he was looking good in there.
No, and he didn't look good at weigh-ins. And really, I picked Thiago on a few cards.
I switched my bet at the last second, and I'm glad I did.
He looked good at weigh-ins, and I try not to go back and change old cards. Anyway, so on to the next fight.
Cavillo versus Gonzalez, and this turned out, I feel like, pretty close to what we were saying was going to end up happening. Cavillo really used pressure well. Striking looked okay. Gonzalez, tough as nails. Didn't put herself in as bad of situations as she tends to do in other fights. Really had a fighting spirit. There was a whole Boobiegate that went on, or implant gate, I guess, where it was apparent.
It made me nervous on some of my cards. That
It did make me look at everything.
I did go back. I changed Cavillo on cards that I would have kept her on because I liked her on
and
every.
she had
but I
over
just took
100.
them both off cards. It wasn't that I went with the other girl. I knew Cavillo was going to win the fight the whole time. I just thought the fight was going to be canceled.
Right.
So I was trying to get a jump
They
on
talked
it.
about this in the press conference, which Dana White, if you watch the post-fight press conference, it was really interesting because he said that he's had Connor, JJ, and a couple other people ever take a fight and asked to go sit by him. And he asked Cavillo to go do that. So that should speak highly of her. Like, he thinks that she's a prospect, potentially, for the division, for the champ coming at it. And she's an alpha male. She looked like an alpha male fighter. She's scrappy. She's still young. And she's only been fighting for a year, she said.
But she
1
has
year.
a personality on her. She has a personality that's good. She's outspoken. She's good at her craft. She has so much room to
Dominant,
grow.
yep.
She doesn't even have that ripped body yet of the when you.
She's
guys
really
have been
trained
fighting
full-time.
for a while.
She's still
and so
right.
I just feel like even walking into House of Pain, I felt like the whole thing from beginning
I loved
to
it. It was
I felt
awesome.
like, and she played the part in there. If anything, I was surprised it didn't happen sooner. So I feel like for Pearl Gonzalez, that's a testament to.
I was gonna say, the big takeaway is Pearl Gonzalez of like, whoa, we got a debuting.
Whoa, stop the clock.
Yeah, 115 that like we were just talking about. 115 is a stacked division. It just got heavier. There's women that are gonna start to be fighting for their contracts in this division as far as them worried about getting taken out, because I feel like the 115 division, you could be on a 4-fight losing streak and still have a fight because it was so lacking in actual
but
competitors.
now it's getting interesting.
It's getting denser, and this is both of these women, fun talent. Can't wait to see wherever they both go.
Fights, yeah, you can
keep
see
going,
them
move
both go
on
to
from
somebody else.
Exactly. They got winning.
I don't like the I'm not surprised motherfucker. I was so into what she was saying. Like, I'm not surprised. I work hard for this. Like, I'm not surprised at the outcome. This is what I work for. I'm just over it. I think that's the saying is tired.
I agree.
Tired.
Come with it.
Like, girl, you were almost there. You could have just made your own little saying. But maybe because of that saying, she lets everybody know she's like a chick Diaz, which maybe the UFC needs somebody right now, like with the I don't give a damn about my bad reputation attitude. No woman wants to be the heel right now.
I agree, and they don't get to choose. I feel like they talked about this a little bit in one of like the FS1 post shows a little bit. Like, you don't get to pick whether you're the heel, because DC's the perfect perception of this is that he should be the all-American good guy. Everybody should love him, but he gets booed where he goes. And it's not his choice whether people like him or not. It's the fans' choice. And Cavillo is in a very interesting spot right now because we're either going to love her or hate her. But
I think everybody likes her okay because you don't feel like she's being phony. And that's the number one thing.
Becoming original or
it's not
being
about originality.
Authentic.
It's authentic.
Being authentic is what mostly matters, and I would agree with that as well.
And not that I really believe Connor's always walking around, busting people's chomps, but I bet that guy's quick-witted as fuck, and he's probably funny to hang out with, and he probably is always zinging them. Yep. And he probably has something to say.
It's just him.
And if they're a good one, he probably is like, oh shit, I need to take that to the press conference. But he is probably clever. So I think, she seems authentic and I like her. I want good things for her and I think it's exciting. Like, whoa, the 115 is what they were hoping out of the 135. But the 135 is retiring queens. Except for my girl, the Bullet. And I like Amanda Nunes as well, but how many times are we going to watch them fight?
Yeah. But there's up-and-comers. There's women coming into that division as well. But what we need is a couple years. What we just need is all of these 11-year-olds a couple years ago are now 15, 16. They're about to be 18. We're at the cusp. Ronda Rousey's only been around for so long. We need to let those seeds that have planted blossom. They're right around the corner. I'm telling you, they're right around the corner.
The cyborgs marinate.
They're 15, 16 and like, whoa, I like to get in fight anyways. Let me go to this MMA gym. Whoa, I can get paid for this. That women can do that, and it's being proved every day, and it's an avenue that, just like the male fighters, some people are like, hey, I can do this for a living. Let's do it.
Rolling on to the next crazy fight of the night.
This was probably one of the weirdest fights that we have seen in a very long time. This was showing the ass of the Buffalo Commission at its worst. There was, because of their own rules, they couldn't use the replay. So what ended up happening briefly was Mousasi's striking was on point. Mousasi was just not completely. He was hitting Weidman more than Weidman was hitting Mousasi, but Weidman did hit Mousasi a few times. Mousasi was hurt a few times in that fight. The ground game, I feel like Weidman was winning on top, and Mousasi was underneath him a few times, where you can see the wrestling really came in. And this fight should not have been stopped. It should not have been a TKO. They should have been able to keep fighting, but because the referee decided to step in, it said a chain of events in motion that was not able to rectify itself by allow the fight to keep going. Because once the ref called it at all, it has to either be a TKO or the ref's fault. And they weren't saying it was the ref's fault. They were saying it was a legal knee, therefore making it a TKO. But they talked to Big John, which is apparently not a part of the rules as well. Like, they asked for his replay, and then they were even saying, hey, this isn't valid because of the state commission. Same with the implant stuff. Who knows if it's real? Like, they didn't have the right representatives there that knew the specific laws for that area that could have done it. And guess who lost in all of it?
The ref made a mistake and stopped the fight.
Yep.
To me, I love instant replay, but unless all the judges, not because Joe Rogan's calling it back like a maniac to replay and replay and replay
and throwing it in Weidman's face. And Weidman, poor Weidman, at the end of it, he's like, oh, look. And he's like, man, my hands were down. And he's like, oh, my hand was up. I don't know what to tell you, Joe. It was legal then. Fucking poor guy. Yeah. Why did you do that to him? You fucking assholes.
Why are you pushing the issue so much? And, you know, I've read things that he didn't know what day it was. So he's obviously concussed. So it's
You're in a fight.
Yeah, and this is where I was like, ooh, that's questionable that I didn't really think of before. If somebody has their hands and, you know, all 4 points down and picking them up from those 4 points to knee them.
That's legal.
I know it's legal, but it's just
it's Musasi's next level.
It's next level shit.
Yes.
Like he found a loophole in this fucking rule that I didn't.
I don't think it's a loophole. I think it's a tactic.
Well, it's not. It's a brand new tactic because the rule was just created. So it's like this guy thought brilliantly, and I, as much as I want to be like, oh,
that's
bullshit,
dirty
it's
and
bullshit,
cheap.
It's bullshit. I'm like, Chris Weidman played himself. Like, either he sat there and was an actor.
That's what I think happened as well.
Oh, I don't know what day it is. Either he sat there, was an actor and wasn't as hurt as he was and forgot about how strict the New York Commission was and got himself because like, oh, I get 3 more minutes. Oh, I'm just going to sit here. Oh, what? The fight's canceled? This is bullshit. Sorry, fans. Sorry. Either that and he screwed himself, or he was legitimately hurt and the fight should have been stopped. One of the two things. So it's like, either way, I feel like, it was a shitty call by the ref, but I feel like I saw the acting too of Chris Weidman that made me, I heard Joe Rogan originally, that's an illegal knee. That's an illegal knee. Oh, second, all of a sudden start screaming. Dom waited a minute.
Yep.
Dom took it in from all the things before he went ham on it. Joe was like screaming, like, Jon needs to get in there. Someone needs to show this tape to wherever. Like, all this stuff started to happen that it's like, hey, I don't care where you're fighting. I'm a fan and I know that there's different rules in every state. Could we get everyone on the same page? And could your announcers not be talking to your referees at all? At all?
It was, Mark Ratner ended up getting on the mic, which he's done a few times to try to clarify situations. I feel like maybe some Yoel Romero fights / Souza fights, like the commission's come in and been like, oh, this is whatever, but this time, real time, you heard Ratner come in and say, this fight needs to be stopped because it's considered a TKO because his hand was up because Ratner was watching the instant replay, and so he was saying, so I feel like you could hear him then start to talk to Big John, and then you could see Jon talking to Mirgliata, which that ref shouldn't talk to anybody once the fight's on. Exactly, and that's where it initially
that's why
went
we
wrong.
have a ref and 3 judges.
Yes,
not
exactly.
3 refs in the ring.
Exactly, or you put 2 refs in the ring, one on the inside and outside, which wrestling does in its championship matches. Yeah, it's like, really a great thing. Yeah. You have 2 refs there.
I mean, every football, baseball, every other sport has more than one person in the field doing it. But
via the rules right now, it's one person stays in there so that he can make an objective decision.
But this is the kind of shit that really has to be ironed out and can't be like friffly floffily like, hey everyone, here's the new rules. These rules aren't going to take place until this date 6 months from now. By then you're all going to forget, and when this actually happens, everyone's going to remember again. It's going to be a shit show of, was it this way before or that way? Now is it this or that? Oh, by the way, every state's different. So they need to get on if they want to legitimize this, they really have to get this rule book down, because I don't want to see a fighter, if I'm watching a fist fight, which MMA fight, if I'm watching this, I don't want to see a fighter like Weidman, and I felt like when he put down those hands originally, it was purely to play the game of not getting hit. It wasn't because he was like actually an injured fighter that was down because he just took like a hard knee to the gut.
He was trying to take the same advantage that Musasi was by lifting the head. He was playing that game. Because Musasi, he was playing the same game, he just lost.
Yes.
He lost. Yes. But I do think, and Musasi said it as well, he said, no, he wanted to take a break. That guy wanted to play the clock and get a rest. And they were both getting gassed. But that was... How fun of a fight was that? We're talking about the controversial end. How fun of a fight was that prior to that?
He got robbed.
It was an amazing fight. It was a back and forth. They hurt each other.
But I thought either way it was going to turn out. Musasi was going to win that fight.
Musasi was going to win that fight.
And who does Chris Weidman fight next? Where do they go? We're at this part of it.
Musasi's already said let's do the rematch because Musasi was winning the fight. He's like, let's
and he knows Chris Weidman's a big old draw.
Yep. Yep. Let's
and
do
it
it
gets
again.
Chris Weidman another fight, so he doesn't have to. And Chris Weidman's going to be so heady by that point. I think you were right about Chris Weidman on the last podcast.
Thank you.
The best Chris Weidman has sailed. We're never going to see him back in the ring.
He's had mega, not little surgeries. Mega, and he's been in a sport that wears on you very quickly, and he's had a lifetime of that. Cormier's in that boat. It's not long for him. I love Cormier. I don't dislike him. I don't boo him. I cheer Cormier every time he's on the screen. I'm a fan. I'm not, I don't understand all of the hate on him either. But either way, I think the rematch is going to happen. I think because it's just the way things are. Mousasi claiming for the money. What do you think? Do you think Dynamite was right when he said Mark Hunt has a country behind him, Connor has a country behind him, JJ has a country behind him? Which then I say, yeah, Dutch. Do you know, like, the Polish people, the same people that are behind JJ and people of that region are all behind Mousasi, so he does have a country behind him?
I don't know how popular he is, but I think that's bullshit.
I thought he has
because
been for a while.
I am not from his country at all, and I'm behind him. I'm a fan of Mousasi. I always have been. I actually just really picked Chris Weidman because I thought, ooh, it's now or never for Chris. He's fighting for his career.
Yeah,
right now.
he is. He totally is.
And so I'm like, but immediately, I think I tweeted it out too. I'm like, it just dawned on me we're gonna see the same thing in this fight that we've seen happen to Chris Weidman fights. He starts out gangbusters, does a lot of great takedowns. Every single one of the takedowns, he puts his complete head in harm's way when he's taking them down. And he doesn't have a chin to take the kind of shots these guys can land. So he gets these quick takedowns, and then always, second round unfolds. And it's the other guy picks him apart every time. It doesn't matter if it's Yoel, Luke, now Mousasi. I think this is Chris Weidman's wheelhouse.
I would agree that he has a head forward style that is, if wrestling translates into a movement, it's forward.
When he has him up against the cage, he has his head
perfect
spot.
Right,
it's all awesome.
Right.
But when he's going for those takedowns and they start to time it, they always land a weird elbow. He always ends up with a weird cut on the side of his face. And for some reason, I am never aware of the amount of damage that guy takes in the fight until afterward in the post-fight presser that I'm like, yeah, damn.
He always is in fights, and he's beat many good people. I think that he can beat still a lot of guys, but I don't think that Chris Weidman. So with his career, I don't think that if he leaves the UFC and he won't fight for another organization, but he's not going to go for the championship anytime soon. He's not going to beat those guys in the top 5. So he can beat guys that are in top 15. Give him top 15 guys where it'll make him money fights. Exactly.
He can just be New York cards all the rest of his career.
He can fight local guys to bring them into the UFC. And, he turns into kind of a stepping stone. If they can get past him, then they're good enough to be in the top 5. But he can't beat top 5 guys.
Shot contention. I would love to see Mousasi versus Souza.
We've seen that, and Souza won it. But now,
Souza's fighting Whitaker. So what about Mousasi fights the winner of Souza Whitaker? Is that the right step?
No, I think Mousasi deserves.
Goes Yoel?
But I think Yoel deserves to go to Bisping.
GSP is not going to fight Bisping. We all know this.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
I also think that, God dang
Luke? Rockhold?
Again, this is a fight. Mousasi Rockhold would be a sick ass fight.
I love that.
Mousasi Rockhold would be a sick ass fight.
It's about Rockhold's.
He's signed third.
Up? He's signed up for someone right now. No, he's not.
I don't think so. I think he got injured and has been out since.
That's not a good tune-up fight for Luke Rockhold, because especially the way he went out, got knocked out.
That flick jab that Mousasi had. Did you see how crisp his Dutch kickboxing came in? His ground game is not wrestling, but he's a great.
Did he look like Alistair Overeem?
At times.
I even thought when he was covering up.
That's Dutch Muay Thai. That is their style of kickboxing. They come from the same area. Actually, him and Alistair.
I'm a fan. I always have been.
Always have been.
I always just kind of thought he was a guy that was on his way out. And I feel like I just saw them cross paths, like going different directions in the UFC.
I would agree that Weidman is on the latter part of his career and Mousasi's peaking. Because Mousasi did start to fight when he was 20 years old in Pride. So he's had a veteran with his 46 fights.
What do you think about Chris Weidman going up to 205?
Nope. I think Chris Weidman needs to step out. With the amount of injuries that he's had and the type of career he's had, he needs to find a niche in gyms, seminars, if not working for Fox or UFC or ESPN. Doing something, turning into something like that while you have your faculties. In the division that he's in, you can't take...
ESPN's a perfect fit for him.
Yeah, like a Sonnen type of thing.
He's clean cut enough just to be I'm the guy, I come in, I talk 5 minutes on a brief on ESPN 1 or 2.
In those divisions, people hit so hard, you can't be a lightweight and be later on in that career.
Smaller.
Exactly. But he can't get smaller. He can't get smaller. He cannot get smaller, but I don't think that... I think it'll prolong his career if he moves up to 205, but it won't benefit his career.
Do you want to see this fight again? Do you think there's a reason? I don't.
No, I think Mousasi had that in there. I think it was a matter of time.
Everybody feels that way, right?
Other than Chris Weidman.
And I think you just and you did, I don't know. Yeah, so that was crazy. Now we can move on to the other. So let's start this we have to start it at Towelgate.
Definitely Towelgate. And it was immediately asked in the post-press fight conference that Daniel Cormier said to the Towel that, hey, I made weight. I don't know anything about anything. I made weight and I fought and I did a good job at fighting. And then they asked him, well, Jon Jones says it's the dirtiest thing ever. And then Cormier said something along the lines of like, you're calling the kettle black. Jon Jones, you're taking dick pills and steroids and you're saying I cheated with a towel. Get out of here. Which is, I love the point. It's the right point. It's like, you can't talk to me, Jon Jones.
Well, you're like, I'm taking dick pics, which, unless I penetrated you inside the octagon, don't help me inside the octagon. Yep. But you pressing down on a towel sure saves your fucking purse and takes away money out of Rumble's pocket.
I can see
didn't make weight. That's like 20% now if you don't make weight.
It depends
and the other
on the
fighter
commissions.
gets the money, and then the belt would have been dropped because they wouldn't have been able to fight for the strap.
Yep.
So it would have changed a whole lot of money for the UFC. So somebody is a good company man that otherwise they would have noticed.
But it isn't only them. It isn't only them because in what you're saying...
anyone that says this doesn't work, like, you can really put the smallest amount of pressure and stand on a
lose
scale.
Pounds. People did it immediately after on Twitter.
And we're like,
Aljamain Sterling, and they're like, whoa, I'm taking pounds. It makes sense. I've weighed in. You can't, in wrestling 101, you can't touch anything or anything around you when you're weighing in right before your matches.
If anything, they hold their arms up all the way above the towel.
Oh, you don't even know. We would do all sorts of... I would see guys on other teams, and it was always interesting for me right before the weigh-ins, which, like you saw Cormier and everybody cheered when he made weight. That happens in locker rooms with a bunch of dudes of all sorts of weights in their underwear. Everybody's in their underwear. Guys are around the corner, standing on their hands, hyperventilating because people believe with the digital scales, I swear.
They can get all the air out of them.
Well, they can move the blood.
Walk in.
Not only that, but they get all the blood to rush to the top of their head, and then they they walk in, let all the air out, and they lean back as hard as they can, cross their arms, and they'll lean back on the scale because they feel like they're top heavy and they're pulling weight off of the front of the sensor. I have seen other people do that
just for ounces.
Anything, exactly. People trying to make themselves puke, you just can't do it in front of the commission, but you can walk outside the door.
Daniel Cormier could have walked outside the door,
trying to make him puke. Yeah, he could have done that.
He could have gone into the bathroom and taken a big double deuce.
In 2 minutes and 34 seconds, I don't think so. 2 minutes.
He could have had a water deuce. He could have sat down and
or pee. I
out
like
of a good pee.
1 pound and 2 ounces. 1 pound.
I know. I saw how much he pushed down on that towel. The second he lets his hands go, it's like, what?
Exactly. There's no way around.
It was so dirty. And, it's one of the dirtiest things eye gouges inside the ring, dick kicks. But that towel thing was
But I would say, what I was going to say with all of it is that it's not only DC and Johnson that stand to lose a lot of money. Like you're saying, it taints the whole pay-per-view where people don't buy it. So the commission doesn't make money. It affects people outside of them. So there's a lot of people.
It's so big, no one wants to notice
So the commission's just like, he did what? Oh, we didn't see shit. Okay. Like, they're not going to acknowledge it one way or
would you have
another.
been if they canceled that fight?
The card didn't need it. It wasn't, especially after that Weidman. If that Weidman would have been the final thing of the fight,
everyone would have been like, well, that was a dump in my beer.
Oh, people would have flipped shit if that would have been the main
Twitter
event.
would still be blowing up. People would be like, I'm never getting a pay-per-view again.
Exactly. So the fact that it was a finish, we called it, was it round 1 or 2? Round 2. There's so much to say. Rumble Johnson's had won a long career at 170. He's the epitome of why weight cutting is wrong. He lost fights that he should have won. Where
he's the guy that should go up in weight.
He went up in weight from 170 pounds to 205.
That's where I think he should fight. Or I think he should fight at... Oh, yeah.
Like,
he looked bad at 205 to me. I felt like he could have looked bigger. Like, he looked thin to me for Rumble. It made me wonder if everything else is okay.
I feel like Rumble knows that if he can't beat Dan Cormier, he can't beat Jon Jones. And
so why get in that?
Why even go back through it? Why? He's done it enough times, went for the belt and lost again. And he's just like, I don't want to do it. And I respect that. And again,
at his gym, the way everyone's looking, if he stayed with the Usman and all those guys that we were just talking about, he might be an amazing coach. Yep. He might be an awesome guy to have. The
really interesting thing for me, and good for him, I hope he does really well in his next endeavors. I'm really interested in what he's going to do. It was really funny that people kept saying that he was going to be a Rams player, and he immediately was just like, come on, don't be stupid, guys. I'm not going to go get into contact sport after a fighting career. Like, don't be stupid. Don't be retarded,
he's
guys.
He's taking over for Conan O'Brien for late night.
No, he's taking over for Kelly. He's a Michael Strahan for the Kelly bitch.
Well, and I know he looks like he wears contacts every time I see him. And then his cry was a little like, ooh. I don't mind people crying when they retire. I don't have any issue with that. His cry in particular, like some people are ugly criers. And usually it's women we talk about, but he was like,
I could
don't
see
fight
the
it.
emotion.
Like, I like the Brad Pickett style retirement. Like, I left my fucking life in this octagon. Like, I love that. Like, just cry, let it out. Don't fight it because you make noises like, go. You might as well just, like a man.
The interesting thing with the Rumble Johnson stuff is kind of like he didn't allow, or who did he let know? Did he say? Nobody.
I didn't even tell
Dana. Not even my coaches.
Hey, look, you just said something right there. I thought that too. I didn't even tell Dana. You mean Dana has inside info that motherfuckers like you are retiring before they get in the ring?
All the time.
So I know how I'm making some extra money for my $485 million. I'm gonna go gamble and be like, oh, how many of the guys win in retirement?
Some people might want to
get the thrill of fight, like.
Well, not even that necessarily. Some people might want to go out on a win. Like, no, I'm retiring regardless. I'm going to go in guns blazing, and if he knocks me out, he knocks me out. But if I win, like, I'm leaving on top. And
he looked good for his Anthony Johnson.
He looked great, but I think he
won
knows
the first round.
He knows everybody. Even Cormier said he won the first round, and I agree. He broke his nose. Did you see Daniel Cormier's nose?
Yeah, and I was like, I think we're about to see for the first time ever. Like, what a perfect way to take away DC's cardio. And then it would have I was surprised that Rumble just
Johnson and his wrestling in the fight,
why did he keep going for those takedowns?
Daniel Cormier said it. He started to panic after he lost his gas, and he went right to his wrestling because that's a great point.
Why would you try to out wrestle
it's totally
Daniel
true.
Cormier?
It's totally true, and he was somewhat losing at the striking, but the corner of Anthony Johnson. The playbacks on it, I'd say Henry Hooft was just like, it happens all the time. He was really upset with Anthony Johnson on quitting and just kind of like, he's such a competitor that he was just like, as a coach, I've coached wrestlers as well. And it can be very frustrating when somebody has all of the tools in the toolbox and they just don't have the will to win. And if he didn't tell his coach, this is my retirement fight, his coach is thinking, you're going to have 10 more fights. What are you doing? So he's like, come on, man. And then he retires. And it's like, if you would have told me, fuck, I wouldn't have been in here looking like an asshole, been like, come on. Try to win the fight. Okay, you know what you're doing.
Don't hurt yourself.
Yeah, you know what you're doing. You're going to be done after this.
This
is
the way you want to be done.
Yeah.
It's your way to be done.
Right. But it might have made his coach look a little bit more like a fool in the post fight when he's getting really upset, because he was getting very upset and saying things like, this happens every time. And it happened in the DZ fight. As soon as Anthony Johnson met adversity, as soon as the hard place started to hit back, he wasn't willing to push come to shove, and he was easily a cannonball in that division. He was easily just running through guys and not really getting hurt. Daniel Cormier is in a dogfight regardless. How do you feel about Daniel Cormier's talking shit as he's getting crowned
I feel
the
like,
champ?
to me, it was easily proven that Daniel Cormier is still the second baddest man on the planet.
Agreed. So what do you think about Jon Jones being in the crown? Jon Jones!
And I think they set them up. I think the Jimmy Manuwa in there was silly.
I hated that. I hated it.
No one even knew who he was. They showed Jimmy Manuwa and people were
one
like,
punch,
who is
one
that?
shot, one kill. One shot, one kill. Get the fuck out of here, Jimmy Manuwa, with your
You ain't
goddamn
ready.
steroids.
Really, what I think we just saw is we obviously just saw DC in a battle. He's going to take a little time off here, and he
There's
obviously
no-
had a hard weight cut.
Yep.
So he's going to take some time off. We also know that Jon Jones has been training, and if any time that Jon Jones is ready to fight again, which we all think that he is, all his shit's been cleared and whatnot. So I think that Jimmy Manuwa and Jon Jones were just in the same room, because that's going to be Jon Jones' tune-up fight.
Jimmy Manuwa, I
Yeah.
could see that 100%.
Why DC heals, we're going to see by summertime, because they're still going to give the 3 months of training for each other. We're
And
going to see
especially
that.
because Dana said that no matter what, Jon Jones will not be the main event of a card because he can't trust him. And, well, guess what? Jimmy Manuwa, Jon Jones is a co-main event to two championship fights easy.
Would you say it's a nice co-main event where we're going to have the tough finale, but it could be a co-main event to the Bullet versus Noons? Like, there's a couple of good fights coming up that are right around that time frame for summer. And it's only two nights this week. It's not going to be the Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's only two. Which I actually think is good, because it'll mean 2 long nights, and they'll probably book it for like 14, 13, 13. So if fights fall out, it's still good.
Yeah. They're still going to be heavy. They usually end up doing like a team championship. Like, one will be TJ versus Cody.
Yeah, that'll be the Friday night.
Right, that'll be like the Free Fox night. But what I was going to say, if you wanted to go next level with Manuwa Jones, you put that on a Fox. Like a real Fox. That's a pay-per-view that you put on a real Fox
if
card.
If you wanted to get really
new viewers.
To me, if you want to slap Jones's hand for fucking
put him
so
on
many
Fox.
times, put him on a Fox card.
Make him the main event of a Fox card.
I agree.
And you bring in people will be like, hey, come check this fight out. It's going to be fireworks. You're going to see 2 of the baddest men alive today, Jon Jones being one of the baddest of all time. That's going to bring in new viewers. If there's any pushes of bringing new viewers, that's the type of way we're going to bring new viewers. Other than with women. I think women is the next
I agree,
avenue.
but the new kids coming in to make them turn on MMA instead of soccer. Or MMA instead of all the other sports.
You have Manuwa, who looks like an action figure, and Jon Jones, who is pound for pound a legend already. Already a legend.
Already and young, and who knows if he's
How
in
many
the
fights
primer
left?
over. We want to see Jon Jones.
It would make Manuwa a legend instantly.
It's a good idea, and then they don't lose. It's a good division to have 2
And you can
stars
still
in,
pay
especially
the
if you have a
shit
guy
out of
like
him.
DC who could be retiring any moment.
And you would just if you were the company.
It's Chael Sonnen, if you think about it. Chael Sonnen, how he always says, look the guy beyond the guy. Because you're setting up your own storyline for fights later on, so you can make sure you get signed for that next fight.
Right.
So if you think about it, and we all know DC's going to be retiring soon, and his final fight will be against Jon Jones. Regardless, that's how the DC... I feel like he's kind of done, and he has a set career now, being an announcer. He doesn't need to put himself in there anymore.
I agree with that as well.
So
He's
I
had
feel
a
like
long,
if
long
you
career.
build up the Jimmy Manuwa storyline, it's a perfect way to do it, to make the average fan a little interested. So they're like, maybe I will get a pay-per-view because it's the 2nd or 3rd time that maybe Jimmy Manuwa and Jon Jones fight.
I agree with that 100%. It's a long game for sure.
Yeah,
it would be really, really, really... I'd watch... I mean, I'm going to watch it regardless, but that's who we are. But if you want to bring it, you got to do outside the box thinking nowadays with these guys. You can't just put them all on pay-per-view and keep making, as far as the fighters as well, the way you get Jon Jones into it by slapping his hand, you also pay him, you make the average of what he would usually make a pay-per-view, and you just pay him for being on the Fox card. You don't get pay-per-view points. You get, DJ is kind of, though, again, gonna be on Fox this coming up weekend, and I feel like he's him and Benson Henderson.
But he could be the smartest of all of them. This is what I was thinking about, too. How many fucking people turn into a pay-per-view? 2 million tops if you're on a Conor pay-per-view?
No, not even 2 million.
Exactly.
Tops, not even.
How many people could turn it? Holly Holmes pulled 2 million on her Fox Fight Night. Now, if you're a guy like Demetrius Johnson who has your own Twitch channel, who has your own game station, it's all about eyes on you. He's thinking next friggin' level.
Yep.
Screw the pay-per-views. That's short-term money. Yeah, you might get $500,000, but is that good? Do you want $500,000 from the UFC that you got to bust your head, or do you want 500,000 viewers that now it's continuous money in your pocket?
DJ also did American Ninja Warrior, and American Ninja Warrior was like, UFC fighter! Oh! It was main, everything. He didn't even get far. But American Ninja Warrior wanted to do so much work with him because he was a current fighter.
He's well-spoken, clean cut, seems fun to hang out with.
All-American guy, but he has avenues, but he does stuff like that. That is next level thinking. He's just a little brash. Though. He is likable, but he is a little bit brash. It's kind of weird. He used to be the more like, I'm an All-American, and then he figured, the heelness is kind of the way to go, so he's being a little bit more bad boy, but it doesn't necessarily work for him. His size really puts people off. His size really, people just don't understand, but if you're a true fan, you're watching his fights and seeing a legend as well of the sport. As it through his prime of his career.
Real quick, I think it's so shitty, and I think to me, I think the UFC picks and chooses, and this is a perfect example of picking and choosing what they want to use to stop a fight because, maybe the fans don't like it and won't draw big enough numbers. Kelvin with the fucking pot. Bullshit.
Who was saying that? Was it Eddie Bravsh, or was it Joe Rogan saying, hey, I heard about Kevin, and they're like, I don't know about that on air because they realized they were on air, but he's apparently loves tacos and weed. Typical Mexican. Typical Mexican. Tacos and weed. It's a good combination.
It's a big deal, though.
It's a good combination.
I just think the weed is whatever.
It's a performance. I don't know. Is it but
they're allowed to have it in and out of competition, both in and out. It's just the amount of milligrams they can have, and it was like Kelvin was over the milligrams, and I'm like, ugh, how hard would that be? Yeah. So it's like you can have a thin pencil-sized joint once every 7 days. I don't know what the milligrams are for how weed stays in your body.
Right.
So anyway, and Kelvin looks like he holds fat cells, which weed stores in fat cells. So if you're a skinny little dude like a Nate Diaz, you could probably smoke a lot more weed. Uh-huh. It just seems like a sketchy test, but whatever. Was I the only person that was excited to watch Kelvin knock out Anderson Silva?
I was really excited for that fight, and I'm really bummed that it's out. And now there's people that are turning down Anderson, from what I've heard.
Who's calling him out?
I think somebody just actually turned him down, but I can't think of the name off the top of my head.
You know who should fight?
Who's that?
Tyron Woodley.
Anderson at what, catchweight?
I think a catchweight's perfect.
Well, like what weight would it be?
I think Tyron deserves a money fight after this bullshit. And I think it'd be an interesting fight. I think 180. Why not 180? Catchweight. 177. Tyron probably walks around larger than Anderson Silva does.
Would Tyron take it though?
He said he'd fight Michael Bisping.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
I think that's a good fight. I think it'd be really interesting too. I think the most dangerous style that can be the best way to see Anderson Silva is a guy with Tyron's style. Uh-huh. If you want to see Anderson ever do what Anderson ever did, it's a guy like Tyron Woodley coming at him. Uh-huh. But
I know how I was just saying, hey, they do the Jon Jones on Fox card.
Yeah.
To bring in new viewers. Look at this Fox card that I'm pulling up right now. It's a better
pay-per-view than the card we just watched.
This is amazing. I didn't even look at this because it was just been an amazing week.
Is it this Saturday?
This next coming up Saturday. This is Demetrius Johnson, Wilson Hayes as the main event. The co-main event, Rose Namajunas, Michelle Watterson. That is a fucking hell of a fight.
On its own.
Yeah, that could be a Fox night on its own without the belt. That's like belt implications. But then after that, Whitaker Souza.
Which could be a main event of its own.
Of its own on a Fox
or
night.
a co-main event of a PPV.
And then it starts to get a little bit of choppy, but we start to get some debuters in after that. But hey, guess what? Those top 3 fights, those are main events on their own.
Fighting anybody still a big name for
Tim Elliott Smoka's that's fun as hell. I like that. Smoka's on a 2-fight skid, I feel like, right now. He needs to really come back.
Aljamain Sterling. There's a lot of big names on the card.
Oh, yeah.
Zach Cummings is
against
fighting.
Mendes, that's a fun fight.
Oh, look who's back. Ashley Evans Smith.
Ooh, I know who I'm betting against immediately. No, wait, never mind. I'm thinking of Jessica I.
Yeah. We like Ashley Evans Smith. But she was out for a minute, wasn't she?
I don't know.
I wonder if she took a fight on short notice.
We'll have to definitely we got some fun fights coming up, but it's definitely been a fun weekend of fights.
Episode of Lesbo and the Bean.
Remember to follow us at
Lesbo and the Bean on Twitter and www.lesboandthebean.com.
Lesbo and the Bean.